Welcome back. My name is Nick. I have Kyle here with me. Pecos with a 0 on Instagram. Go check him out. He's an amazing artist, and he does all the cool artwork for us. Here's our His Dark Material shirt of Galavespians with dragonflies, the way they should be. You can get it on our website, AsArt.space. He does a lot of the artwork for our shirts. He's a big contributor to the channel. He's one that organizes all the thoughts for these in-depth deep dives on characters. By the way, if you don't know, we did Mrs. Coulter to John Parry to the Mulefa, Land of the Dead, to Harpies, Galavespians, you name it.
Lord
We've covered
Asriel,
it here.
Lyra,
Lord Asriel,
yep.
Lyra, Yorick, Bernison. So you name it, we've covered it here. And now, Will freaking Parry.
Yes. All right. So this, of course, as we always start off, this is his early life before the books, right? Leading up to that. So Will grew up in their family house in Winchester with his mother. So he was the only child of John Parry and Elaine Parry, right?
Yeah.
So, John Parry, his father, left on an expedition to the Arctic called the Nunatak Dig during the first months of his life. So he really doesn't have any recollection of his father, really.
Yes.
As he was growing up, Will questioned his mother often about his father. So Elaine couldn't give a lot of information, but told Will that his father had been an officer in the Royal Marines who left the army to become an explorer.
Yes.
Right. So
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to let you guys know we did a whole deep dive on Will's dad. So if you want to hear about his story when it takes place, where it offshoots here, go listen. It's really good. Sorry, Kyle.
That's right.
Continue.
No, it's all good. After learning this, Will grew up playing a lot of games where he explored with this invisible companion who was his dad basically. So he just I remember reading in the books, it was kind of sad. He usually plays with himself and he's like, "All right, Dad, yeah." He's on these cool adventures and it's he doesn't have a lot of friends, At age 6, Will and his mother dressed smartly to visit an elderly couple in a large house. So the couple treated them really bad, really coldly, and they made his mother cry, right? And it was only when he was older that he realized they were his paternal grandparents. So he kind of saw a little bit of that in the show when he went to go see them, right? Very similar than in the book in the books. And then at age 7, Will realized that his mother had mental health problems. So he, I remember this in the book. He of him, that sort of knowledge coming online in his child brain, going oh, something is a little off with mom just in how she behaves. So they were playing a game in the supermarket where they could only place something in the cart when no one was looking, right? So it was fun for Will to be the lookout, but when they finally reached the checkout, his mother began to panic because she was convinced the enemies had stolen her purse. So she then went back around the supermarket and placed everything back, convinced that the enemies would track them down by her card number. So it was after this incident that Will became more aware of his mother's condition. So the enemies she spoke of were only in her mind, and basically he made it his mission to take care of her after that, right? So
which is
Elaine
a major theme of his story arc.
Yes,
yeah,
that's why
he
he
always thinking back to his mom, and even when he sees Mrs. Coulter, or he always thinks of his mom too. And there's other moments too. He's like, I wonder if my mom's safe. There's always moments in the back of his head, would I ever see my mom again if I go to the land of the dead? It's always there in his mind. Yeah.
And so Elaine would sometimes have clarity where her disease seemed to disappear, but these moments were super short-lived. But Will took advantage of those moments and learned how to shop, how to cook, how to clean, right? And he was determined to take care of his mom. Because he feared the authorities would take her away and then send him to state custody or something like that, right? So very very trying upbringing. So then after now that kind of leads us. That was a lot of the backstory that leads us up to the books, right? He's he's not doing that great in school. He's getting in fights and stuff, right?
Yep.
His mom is still having that mental illness, and so then he finds the window and has the whole thing
adventure.
Yes, the whole adventure, yes. And then
he loses a finger or two.
Yeah. Pulls a Frodo. After the Authority War, whoa, it's me doing the Lord of the Rings references now.
Mark it down.
Dang it! One sec.
It looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yeah, you get a freebie because of that. Oh man. Okay, so after the Authority War, so like Will would later go on to medical school, where like the state of mind needed to use the subtle knife also allowed him to make precise diagnoses.
Oh, cool.
So like it was so accurate. In fact, like during his education, he often had to make a wrong diagnosis every now and then when he knew the correct one to avoid looking supernatural.
Oh, wow.
Right. So like once he finished his doctorate, though, he felt able to go directly to the right answer. So he was just like, boom, I know what it is, right? Which is pretty cool. Kind of like a, pre-awakening Doctor Strange or something. I don't know.
It's true. Yeah.
So
except for he's missing 2 fingers.
Yeah. He doesn't have the crippled hands.
He can still do the circle thing because he has his two fingers.
That's right. Nice. So a little bit of his physical description, a little different from the show, but Will has dark hair and straight black eyebrows.
Yeah.
His eyes were notably fierce and wide, while the rest of his face was like well defined by a jutting jaw and broad cheekbones. So I would even say though, Amir Wilson's casting worked well in conveying this. I think he had that essence,
that brooding look, right?
Yes. Yeah. So some personality and traits. Will was responsible and mature from like a young age, as we've established, right? Behaving more like an adult than a child for a large portion of his youth. So, he always had a strong sense of morality. So he would always pay for goods in the in the abandoned city of Chittagazze.
Yeah, he would always leave money. Yeah.
And like he felt it was his obligation and duty to look after his mother, and often like sacrifice his own enjoyment or well-being for her sake.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. He's like really practical and sensible. He's able to manage problems well, and like he seems to possess good foresight and troubleshooting ability, right?
Which is a good pairing for Lyra.
Yes,
like it's all the skills Lyra was lacking.
They're very complementary. He's generally quiet, but serious and courteous.
Yeah,
right. So like in extreme situations, specifically. The murder of his father, and when Lyra confessed that she had told police officers she knew him, he was capable of he could be intensely like mad, right? He's also secretive and cautious by nature, so he's not one to look for trouble. And his like fierce independence often makes him reluctant to like both seek and accept help from others, right? So he can be stubborn in that regard. However, he was always willing to stand up for himself.
Yep,
right?
That's true.
So many grown-ups like found themselves feeling uncomfortable looking him in the eye, right? So this is owing to his imposing and grown-up demeanor. Right,
yeah, I think actually, now that you mention it, I think Serafina Pekkala had a hard time looking him in the eye.
Yeah.
When they met at the end of the book, or maybe it was when they first met. I just remember like I think Serafina Pekkala, and then I remember even when Mary Malone met him for the first time.
Yeah.
Like she embraces Lyra and she hugs him, but she's like when she saw Will, she's like, I have to give him a handshake to acknowledge
he's
a
clearly
man.
not a child.
Yeah,
right?
and I remember that distinctly. And I believe another one of Will's like talents or skills was to almost like hide in a crowd. He can like put his hood on and almost just disappear. Like he was so good at just like being able to be quiet and move away. Like I remember even in the book, like after he does the whole thing with Yurik, with the boat thing, everyone's like, oh, look at this guy. And he like kind of put his hood over and kind of just did his thing where people were no longer interested in him at all. And he kind of just faded, and then he hopped on the boat with Yerk for a couple of brewskis. No, he didn't. He didn't. I'm just having fun there. It was vodka. In the books, it was vodka.
Vodka, yes.
But sorry, continue.
Yeah, so like as a result of his morality and like sense of duty, he's pretty prone to guilt. Right. So like he's like the perceived murder of one of the agents sent by Lord Boreal, right? And then also leaving his mother to live without his protection. So, and of course that came back to bite him with breaking of the subtle knife with Marissa Coulter. Yeah. Basically.
And I think a lot of other moments too, even going to the land of the dead.
Yeah.
And like anytime he had like a major decision, I think even the reforging of the knife, it's like he had to like conquer this idea
Yeah.
of being a bad son, or whatever was going on in his head, kind of thing.
Right. Right. And then so some abilities and skills, so of course he is the bear of AsArt, right? The only person who is able to use the subtle knife, and also, the final bearer,
That's
if we
true.
think about it, right? The last one.
Hmm.
And then he has great intuition. So he has a strong sense of intuition, which aided him in his use of like the subtle knife and easily make diagnoses in his medical career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then his demon is, it's a little special case, right? Because Kiryava came a little bit late, quite
Yes.
later, right? But
Hmm.
Will's demon, like when she was found and formed, took the shape of a large queen cat named Kiryava, right?
Mm.
And Kiryava settled as a cat who was like larger than a usual cat, though
Hmm.
smaller than like a jaguarundi,
Yeah.
right? If you guys are familiar with your
Isn't
predatory
that kind
cats.
of like a bobcat?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah, and featured fur in an array of colors described similarly to the colors of the subtle knife. Actually, I love the description from the
Mm.
book,
That's
how
super
they
cool.
describe her fur, right? Because
Yeah.
it seems to, and as it hits the light, has like almost a rainbow effect, right? Like you're
Yeah.
looking through abalone or something.
Hmm.
Um, and then not much is known of Kiryava's distinctive personality, other than she most probably took on qualities such as like independence common to cat demons,
Mm.
right? So that kind of hints at like the demon's person, right? So
Yeah.
Will is a very independent person if you think about it.
And
Um,
what's cool is they have the special power where she can really go off and
yep,
explore.
yep. And so she settled only shortly after being separated from Will.
Yep.
So she wasn't seen in many forms, but she was seen in a few forms. So
Yes.
when startled by Serafina Pecola in the forest in the Malefa world,
Hmm.
both her and Pan turned into wolves.
Yep.
Right. When they flew with Serafina, Kiryava took the form of a nightingale.
Yep. Hmm.
And then when she finally returned to Will, she was a white dove with a crest of dark red feathers. Right.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
That's actually such a cool part in the book too, because Serafina had him change just because she's like, I have a feeling this is gonna be the last time you're ever gonna be able to fly again, because she's
Right.
like, I can see your future climbing trees, but not flying or something like that.
Ooh,
And
yep.
I was like, oh, it's so cool. It's so sick. They have the powers to see what animals are, or what the demons are gonna settle as.
Yeah.
That's so sick. What's also really interesting too that I was just thinking about right now in the filming of this video.
Yeah.
So Lyra and Pan, they can't really use their powers to their full extent because they're not a witch, so they're not allowed to separate super far. There's even moments in the book where she's like, come back, Pan, like people can't see you separate from me, like, or else it would be weird because she would look like she doesn't have a demon in this
Right.
world, right? So it would be weird. But the advantage to Will, no one knows about demons, so they can really separate and do cool stuff and come back. So
That's right.
he can like conquer like multiple different tasks at once or something like that too, which is
Yeah.
super cool. Then you can come back and share the info and relearn. It's not like
Doctor, why is there a cat in the surgery room? Like,
that would be hilarious. That would be so, I got some cat hair in the wound you're closing up, but
he's got lung cancer, Will. No.
I thought they did a good job with Will overall.
Yeah.
I struggled a little bit between Will and Lyra's love story with the way that maybe the actors were directed, or I mean, it just felt like they were definitely missing a few beats. But overall, I really enjoyed the casting of Will. I thought he did a good job. And like when you listen to the audiobook, he kind of sounds similar to the audiobook voice of the character too,
That's true. Yeah.
which I thought was pretty cool. And I thought he did such a good job of that idea of he could be like present and strong, but he can also like fade and hide
Yeah.
quickly too. I like when he puts his hood on and he just kind of swoops around,
Yep.
especially when you first see him going around the town and hiding and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. So I was a fan overall of Will's character. I really
Yeah.
liked what they did in season 1 too, of showing his story while season 1 was going on.
Happening in parallel with Lyra's. Yeah.
Instead of, because in the books he's just introduced in book 2.
Yep.
So it was,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that choice to do that, because I feel like one, it kind of built up his character more. So when they finally meet you, it's not like, hey, I'm just random dude, hello, So
Hey guys, what's going on here? Wow, no one's in the city. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's been so much fun covering his Dark Materials. We really enjoyed it. We're going to do one more comment video, and we're going to announce winners. We're going to be giving away
That's right.
some shirts to some lucky commenters. We should have done this earlier. We don't know if this is actually going to work 100%. It's our first time doing it, but super excited to get that going so we can give back to you guys. Be sure to follow Kyle on Instagram, Pecos with the Zero on Instagram. He's a super talented artist. Go follow him and go to AsArt.space for audio video links and to find the shirts that Kyle helps design. This is our Galavespian shirt. Dragon Riders. Come on, go follow go follow Kyle and go get some of our shirts at AsArt.space, and we'll see you on the next AsArt.
Yeah.
Dude, that was an intense run.
Yeah.
There's a lot of content.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.